Hi, this is Keena Kim with PivotalDiscovery.com here at the Thomson Reuters 12th Annual E-Discovery and Records Retention Conference in San Francisco with Doug Kaminski of OSE, and he's going to share some of his thoughts with us on foreign language query. Doug?
Well, that's an interesting subject, Keena. Foreign language query. It's kind of a broader topic, and you're seeing this more and more. I spoke on a panel back in April in New York at ECOLSM, which is the East Coast Association of Lit Support Managers. And that was actually the topic of the day. And we looked at it from a number of different perspectives. We looked at it from start to finish, and what are all the vagaries of those. Now, we won't go into great detail about European data privacy laws, because those are really some of the earlier hurdles you have to go through.
Right.
But we'll talk about, what are the differences in collecting foreign language documents versus processing those versus seeing them in a review tool. Because many people think about querying foreign language documents, and they just think about how do I actually search through these things to find the information I need. Mm-hmm. But there's so many other steps that have to be taken care of prior to that point, just to make sure you're seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. So when it comes to collections, there are some vagaries. You have to know what you're looking for. That and some countries are far different in terms of the types of formats. Spain, for example, Scandinavia really favors Linux and open source. Mm-hmm. And so where documents are located, where you find them, and kind of formats, they'll be in a little different. In Korea, for example, Handysoft is popular. Mm-hmm. And so Handysoft has an entirely different set of queries and rules and ways of just trying to find where's your data located. Because think of the EDRM model and how that all falls into play, and look at where do we have to look at things a little differently for foreign language documents at each step. Mm-hmm. So when we're identifying these, when we're preserving these, when we're collecting these. And then we get into processing. Because as you know, you'll hear Unicode compliant, and that's kind of the favorite buzzword right now. A few years ago in this industry, everyone said we have native file review, and that was the big bandwagon to jump on. In this past 6 months, and probably for the next 6 to 12, it will be foreign language documents, or we're Unicode compliant, you'll hear. Mm-hmm. And so all that generally means is that for most companies, it means that they can display foreign language documents with the standard Unicode characters within their review platform. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean they know how to deal with them. So look carefully at that. Processing is a little bit different because you've got double byte characters, and there's actually two different types. You've got 8-bit as well as double bit characters. Script languages are a little different, as well as when you process, you have to have engines that understand word breaks. Because say, for example, in Pacific Rim languages, you don't necessarily have the same types of word breaks we do in Romance languages and English language docs, where you're able to very clearly see the spaces, because realistically that's what most engines do. They look for the spaces. And especially if your characters like CJK languages, most of the Pacific Rim are bidirectional. Mm-hmm. You can see them up and down as well as backwards and forwards. That makes it a lot harder for the average engine to look at these things. Another thing that comes into play is many people are looking at machine translations, for example, versus human translations, and there's a lot of plus to that. And look for review platforms that can display these side by side. So many times you'll see that. It'll be associated text. You'll see the actual document. Also look for some intelligent foldering. Look for places that can use the metadata, have the language packs installed, and be able to parse out your data so that you can see which languages in there foldered already. That way, if you're going to have native speakers, for example, looking at some of these foreign language documents, they'll be able to find these more readily. Right. Then we get into the bits of query. And query is not difficult. Many review platforms are included, will allow you to cut and paste characters. So we've had that example where a law firm may not necessarily have native speakers on staff. They bring one in, and they say, here's the phrase that you're looking for. And then they cut and paste that out of the document. Then they're able to do a search and find this type of information and see all the documents that have that phrase without actually having to be able to speak the language.
Right.
So a lot of those pieces all have to fall into play. And look at all these things front and back. Test those things out. Ask the vendors that are saying we're foreign language compliant, what does that really mean? Does that mean you really know what you're doing when you're processing? Mm-hmm. A simple example is there's one very popular search engine that we won't name, but it's used by many, many companies in their review platform for they're doing their indexing, and it's a great product. But they've come out with newer releases. Mm-hmm. So we actually saw a case, fortunately I wasn't involved, but I was asked to consult on it, where searches were run in the foreign language, and then the company had revised the search engine to take into account the newest version, and they reran the searches and found about 3 times as many. So of course, nothing infuriates attorneys more than not having some data integrity or being able to rely upon the search results forward and backwards. Mm-hmm. So do look at these things and test those, because again, it's a hype thing right now. It's a cliche almost, and the whole foreign language concept is a bandwagon that many people are jumping on. But take your vendors to task and make sure that they do indeed have all the tools that you need and can show that they have integrity in those tools to provide what you're looking for.
Great. Thanks so much, Doug.
Sure, thank you.